The fact that Cyberpunk 2077 is only playable from a first-person perspective and would lack any third-person gameplay outside of driving cars and controlling other vehicles was something that was revealed during interviews at E3 alongside the behind closed doors gameplay demo that members of the press had the opportunity to see. And this sparked a lot of discussion online, as the topic, at least to some extent, has been dividing the CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk fanbase. I guess because the only other RPG franchise CD Projekt Red has ever developed, being The Witcher, was entirely played in the third person, many fans assumed that Cyberpunk 2077 would also be a third person RPG, myself included. Prior to E3, if you had asked me whether I thought Cyberpunk would end up being first person or third person, I would have also predicted third, without even thinking about it too much. However, upon the confirmation that the core gameplay would be almost entirely first person, I honestly thought it sounded awesome, as a first person experience would almost definitely be more immersive and in turn allows the player to truly feel as though they are a part of the open world that is Night City. Not to mention, it's something the studio has never had the opportunity to do before in their games. The fact that it is something different I wasn't expecting personally means I am excited to see the new possibilities that can be introduced from a gameplay perspective into Cyberpunk 2077 that would not be possible with a third person perspective. Yet there was a portion of the community and fandom that I presume to be a vocal minority, as is usually the case with these kind of online outrages, that took issue with this confirmation and were not at all fans of this particular design choice. And upon seeing some of the complaints and concerns gamers were raising upon the first person gameplay, I believe some of them to be plain random and in some cases ridiculous. There appeared to be a certain level of disdain present towards the notion of first person gameplay as a whole across the board, which was weird to say the least, because I've never heard of any gamers ever having any problem with the first person perspective in any game. I suppose the question I'm genuinely curious about with this is, where the hell did these people that apparently hate first person games so much come from? I guess it is possible that there has always been a small portion of gamers I had never encountered before that always felt this way, but I had certainly never heard of these complaints before towards first person. I was unaware that there was such a portion of gamers who took such issue with first person games as a whole. From my view, as soon as it was confirmed Cyberpunk 2077 would be a first person game, people started complaining about a topic that has literally never been an issue before in my eyes. It was really weird. It was as if these complaints and issues with first person gameplay have always existed amongst gamers, when in reality they never have. It seemed to me that people were complaining and whinging for no reason, following the trends and voicing their displeasure because they felt obliged to. Obviously, if you genuinely suffer from something like motion sickness in first person games and have legitimate reasons to be disappointed with this design choice in Cyberpunk, then I don't want it to seem as though I'm attacking you or anything of the sort. I'm just arguing that some appear to be throwing out thin arguments for the sake of it on this topic. It's clear that a minority of gamers are incredibly entitled, which is evident with the many that complained about Cyberpunk, and the fact that it is first person. There is a clear line between having legitimate concerns about the developer's decision to make the game first person, which is totally reasonable, and following the mob, flat out demanding that it is changed or an option is added for third person gameplay. It is this entitled mentality that many possess that is so frustrating. Newsflash: developers absolutely do not have to make a product that appeals perfectly to you. In the case of Cyberpunk, the concerns many have shared are so reactionary. Considering the public hasn't even seen gameplay yet, there is no way that people who didn't see the E3 demo can hate so passionately on the choice if they haven't even seen how it has been implemented into the game itself. If you had seen it, then I can understand why you would want to critique it, but that is not what's happening here. I don't think it takes a genius to virtually guarantee that by the time the game launches, no one will care less that the game is first person, and that this is just another short-term thing that people can complain about before moving on to the next thing to get outraged over. Besides, games that include a character creation system and a protagonist that is defined by the player, which is something CD Projekt is doing for the first time with this title, just tend to work better with a first-person perspective. Bethesda Game Studios RPGs are a perfect example of this. And yes, I'm obviously aware that they have a third-person option as well, but that isn't the way the majority of players choose to experience entries in the Fallout or Elder Scrolls series. My point is that for those who may complain that they won't be able to see their character in gear at all times, Bethesda have been doing this for years, and they arguably make the most popular Western RPGs out there, and no one is ever complaining about that because frankly it's a pretty dumb complaint. Not to mention, the developers made it clear that just like in The Witcher 3, you will always be able to see your character in the inventory menu. So I don't really understand where that particular complaint comes from, but it is something I saw a number of people discussing. As fans of CD Projekt Red, why would we want to compromise the developers' vision for their project? Clearly they have made the decision to make Cyberpunk first person for a simple reason, because they believe that it is best for their experience they are attempting to provide to gamers. They believe that a first-person perspective is what's best for the game. Don't we want CD Projekt to deliver the absolute best product they can to us upon release? Well, if that's the case, then fans straining their own creative freedom on their own game with demands of changing or altering the core gameplay experience is not the best way to accomplish that. We should be supportive of the developer for making new decisions and doing things they've never done before so the game can be the best it possibly can be. I'm not attacking people who dislike the idea of Cyberpunk 2077 being first person. If that is such an issue for you, then perhaps the game just isn't for you, and that's fine. But it's when entitled fans complain about it and demand of CD Projekt Red to change it back and choose to prematurely judge the game so extremely that I roll my eyes. Many like myself have loved the developers' work in the past, and they have absolutely proved themselves to be an incredible game creator. I'm honestly surprised that so many fail to see that CD Projekt clearly know what they are doing. So I suggest that the people who feel so strongly about this quote-unquote controversy have a little faith. If you played The Witcher 3, you know these talented men and women are absolutely worthy of your trust. It shouldn't be hard for you to put your initial skepticism aside for a moment and trust that they know what is best for their own game. This has been SirCazz. Farewell.